Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Going Deeper. And today, I am not going to have any slides or anything. And usually when I do this additional day, it's more intimate, it's more interactive. I do have really important things that I want to share. So I want to go over a couple of stuff. And then if you are if you're in an appropriate attire, you're welcome to turn the camera on, and then we are going to have some conversations around it. And then every single time when I did the summit and workshop in the past, the lessons and the teachings are super good. But I found that the Q&As that we do is very meaningful and interactive. So if you are at the place, and then you can unmute and ask questions later on. I just want to get a sense by asking, how is everything with everybody? Like, what is sinking in from the content of the Soul Purpose Summit the most? So if you are at the place that you can type on the chat, please share the biggest insights that you have had, or anything that is sort of, traveling around the mind to, sometimes people are figuring things out and all that, but let's start with that. So if you have anything that you want to share from the last 2 days, please share on that chat. Let's start with the chat. Eric is saying empowerment. That has been one of the words that has been becoming more and more important. The word that I love the most has always been freedom. Actually, my name Yuki means freedom's life. A lot of people think that my name means snow because Japanese Yuki can mean snow, but the different letters in Japanese. And my particular name Yuki means actually freedom life. But empowerment is, whenever we have the letter N, right? E-N or E-M, it means to be in that energy. That's how I interpret it, right? So empowerment means to be in the energy of power, and joy means to be in the energy of joy. What else? What else start with N? I don't know, encourage, right? Be in the energy of courage. And empowerment is the feeling that we want to proactively and deliberately access so we can connect with the infinite, right? So empowerment is so good. Kenny saying, spending more time in my heart, less in doing and thinking. That is awesome, because now you're tapping into the gate. The heart is the gate that the soul can express. Karen, I feel more subtle. Oh, somebody just typed, so you put that. Calm. James Allen says that the calmness of the mind, there's a chapter on serenity. The calmness of the mind is I can remember, something jewel, right? So it's a treasure and it's a peace of mind, and that a lot of people are seeking. The calmness and the groundedness is, if you talk about the chakra, when you ground yourself into the root, only then you can suspend up. So when you ground into the now and into the physical presence, we can also access to the awareness. I don't talk too much about the chakra in these sort of summits, but that's how I also look at it. Like the root chakra is the way to access the physical world, to be in the space. And then the crown chakra is the fifth dimension. So when you have down and an up, you are pulling the string away from each other so you can begin integrating wholeness. That's another topic, another perspective. So let's see, Nick, all the answers to our questions come from within, and that's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, absolutely right. And then actually, I want to add on to that, because one of the things that is true and something that I talk about And when I say this, a lot of people like this idea, but hearing and understanding conceptually and also to embody in day-to-day life is different, right? This is something that I want to talk about. So Nick is saying all the answers to our questions comes from within. The answers are already there. We need to become aware of it. So even the version of us, we are encouraged to be in the wish fulfill and the desired outcome and the ideal version of us. That version of us vibrationally already exists. So that's the beauty of the manifestation process, that when we start understanding the three planes of understanding in the life, the idea that everything is already created in the spiritual plane is so beautiful, because we are already whole at the essential level. So when you say, Nick, answers to our questions comes from within, what I'm hearing when you said that is that what we want and what we're seeking is already here, and we just need to become vibrationally aware of it. And then what prevents us from becoming aware of vibrationally is the false concept and false assumption that we are believing about ourselves who we are not. We're believing ourselves who we are not. Let me say that again. We are believing about ourselves who we are not, meaning that the whole past history, the sense of unworthiness, not good enoughness, not believing in yourself fully, those ideas and feelings and thoughts are not ourselves. Those are just information. And then we act on something based on those vibrations that is nested in your subconscious that we were given from the outside. And that's not us. Somebody else, this is what Bob Proctor also said, somebody else's beliefs are dictating and controlling our thinking patterns, emotional homes, and behavior patterns. And that's not ourself. Because at the level of the self, the fourth dimension, we can become whoever we decide and choose to be in our mind. So what I mean by vibrationally we need to become aware is, again, what I have been sharing multiple times, that the first realization is to realize, to create distance from our mind and the body, because we're not the body, we're not the mind. So whenever we have thoughts or feelings or internal experience, actually we need to be able to identify those as a third person. That is one key. Because if you identify, like for instance, you can call it, oh, he's saying this, she's saying this, oh, he's feeling this, she's feeling this. That is not the true you, right? So the first realization is to really understand and embody that idea that you're already whole. Your essence is perfect and complete at the level of the soul. And then the second layer of realization is that actually the mind is the tool. So all the thoughts and feelings, those are not determined, but dynamic. So what I mean by that is that, the process of becoming aware of vibrationally requires these two layers of realization. And because the concept of self is dynamic and we can choose to become whoever we choose to be, and then the whole process of life is to bring that concept of self closer to the soul, so it integrates, and then use that energy and Eric, empowerment to express that into the physical world. Then we can feel fulfilled, feeling successful, feeling proud of ourselves, and then we unconditionally love ourselves enough to serve others. Okay, I spent a lot of time with your comment, Nick. Jacqueline, I have discovered, I love the term discover, because discover means to uncover what's already within us, right? That my inner dialogue has not been serving my soul purpose. Yes. So the process of moving the self closer to the soul is also, in other words, to match the inner dialogue to the ideal self. Because when you begin telling yourself, affirming yourself, thinking thoughts that is in harmony with your ideal sacred self, that's how you start identifying yourself. So, and then that is also the activity of moving the self closer to the soul. I think that concept of self-image and then who you think you are, of how you see yourself, often people sort of disconnect that idea in the moment-to-moment thinking. So what I hear often is that people love these ideas, right? Especially when people are in spirituality, people in a personal development, all these people who are starting to sort of wake up. I was reading a book by Gary Zukav that I'm going to be using next year, but he used the term out of the fence. When you're inside of the fence, people are living in this five sensory world. So people believe only what they can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. And then they might be interested beyond that, but they are not willing and open to explore it, right? But when people are coming out of the fence, people start trusting their faith, people start trusting the intuition, people start understanding this integration of three planes of our life. And then when they become committed, not interested in or curious about, because when you are just becoming interested in or curious about, you will let the habitual default state take over. But when you commit to explore this path, which is, I believe, is the real way of living life as a human, because the major difference between human beings and other animals is, if I get a little bit scientific, I don't put too much science in my workshop, but we have this thing called prefrontal cortex, which is the ability to become aware of our own awareness, right? No, any other animals have that. And teenagers don't have that. That's why teenagers do what they do. Some people do not develop until the age of 25. So, but when we develop those, prefrontal cortex, it becomes that becomes a way for us to become aware of our awareness. That's the difference between reacting to the outside, reacting from the past, versus responding. Then, just like Jacqueline is saying, we can begin paying attention to what kind of inner dialogue we're having. So one thing that I was doing the Facebook Live last night to do the check-in for day 2. And then I was saying, many people who wants to believe law of attraction, wants to believe their ideal self, still says, oh, I am struggling, I am having a hard time, I am whatever that is. But whenever we use the term I am, I think, I believe, you are telling yourself so. So it doesn't make sense from a energetic standpoint that you're saying to yourself who you do not want to become. Does that make sense? So that's an outside in living, right? Because most people, when they say, I am struggling, I am having a hard time. So those are two words that I hear very often. They are looking at the outside world that is affecting their inner world, which is your thoughts and emotions and feeling, and saying that I am struggling. When we say I am struggling, you're saying that I am a struggler. Yeah. And then struggling is not an experience that the soul knows how to experience. It's away from the soul, right? So whenever we say, I am struggling, I am having a hard time, we're actually moving the self farther away from the soul. So this is the opposite of the purpose and objective of this summit, right? So what we want to do is, I'm glad that Eric mentioned about the power empowerment. We want to continue to deliberately and proactively choose empowerment. Choose empowerment. It means that choose you to work on our inside to be empowered. And that includes a capacity and ability to be able to neutralize and suspend the outside disempower version of visible sight. And that is not something that other people are trying to do. So I did spend a good amount of time for your comment, Jacqueline. Elaine said, closing eyes is real you. Oh, welcome to my world. Closing the eyes is the real you, and the real you can be formed however you choose to, whoever you choose to be. So the moment you decide that the outside open eyes version that you can see is the real you, we miss the whole point, because the you that you see when you have your eyes open is the effect. And if you like that effect that you're seeing, you can enjoy and be in gratitude. But if there's something that you want to shift, we can change that by closing the eyes. Yes, closing the eyes is a key. Okay, Julia, I feel more hopeful, as even when something is going beyond my control, this self moving closer to soul feels like empowerment and helps to not get lost in the third dimension. The more ways I hear, the better I get at embodying the wish fulfill. It's a great frequency to be in. Yes. So I think this is where many people get stuck, right? When something happens around us that we feel like it's beyond our control. And I think there are different versions of that. But I think the way that, because, and first of all, there are different layers that comes with that, actually, Julia, because what we want to make sure to be in the energy is that, first of all, we need to believe that we own the power, the empowerment, right? Eric, I'm going to use your word throughout this going deeper session today. The empowerment, that you have the power to shift that. You want to believe that. And then I think, again, another layer of people going to this empowering state is because we have this programming that we're programmed to want to know, using our intellect logically, how this is going to get solved. Right? And if we don't see that, it feels disempowered, right? But what I'm asking is that if every single thing in the outside world is a reflection of the energy that we're in, and it's the co-creative process, the responsibility and the choice that each individual can make, is only to be in that energy. And it's very interesting because many people understand the idea that when there's a stressful situation and when you feel stress, you being stressful will not help to solve that problem, but nevertheless, they get pulled into that energy. And I think what we need to keep in mind is to really own your power. And the moment you start letting the outside to dictate our thoughts and feelings and emotions, we are shifting into the victim role, whether we're aware of it or not. And then I think the capacity that we need to develop is to notice that and to be able to shift into it. How do we shift into it? It requires, this is going to be depending on the person, because that's something that there is a general idea of how you want to do, but it's case by case, where the belief is in that person, what kind of thinking pattern has. And actually, this might kind of relate to what Lisa asked question, but I'm going to answer Lisa's question. This is even not a question, so let's get going. So that's good, Julia. And Nick is saying, yes, you're commenting, explaining, okay, right? And Eric is saying, this last comment, I can change my situation and less a victim and in tune to my true purpose. The main theme about our life came through as we separate. Yes, so the movement of the self towards closer to the soul and away from the soul is also the sense of connectedness, which comes from faith, and in separation, which comes from fear. And this is where I want to start today. So one of the things that I want to keep in mind, and not only those who are attending live here, but also people who are watching replay via email and the Facebook group. The two fundamental problems and challenges that people have are fear and habits. So if you are enjoying the energy that you are experiencing through this summit, I highly invite you to continue by doing something, right? It's very easy to go to Tony Robbins, really motivated, pumping up weekend seminar, either online or in person, and then you felt like you changed. You felt like you got the transformation over the weekend, and you go back home, and that lasts, after effect lasts 1 or 2 days. In the next moment, you will find yourself moving through life exactly the same way, exactly having the same thinking habitual pattern, living in the same emotional home, and wondering what happened. I went to the Tony Robbins over the weekend. I think this resonates with a lot of people, right? Let's talk about New Year's resolution. People get excited about the New Year's resolution and they feel like, okay, this year, and then they do a lot of stuff, right? And then the next moment, actually, this is what happens. Like when people drift out of the pattern, the new pattern that they are wanting to imprint, they don't know how they got out of it most of the time. If they knew, they wouldn't. Does that make sense? This is what I love about what Bob says, that how do you say it? Most people already know what they need to do differently in order to produce a different result. But nobody knows why they're not doing it. Most people already know what they need to do differently to be able to produce a different result. But nobody knows why they're not executing and doing it. Because your subconscious pattern and a habitual way of operating is that pulling you back to this thermostat, like the personality, psychological thermostat, that you are feeling comfortable. And let me tell you that one of the things that I love sharing is that your sense of self-image, and the worthiness and the identity is not limited within, but everything that you are surrounded by, including the place that you are, the clothes that you wear, maybe the toothbrush that you selected, that, the shampoo that you have some, the favorite shampoo, right? People are choosing things that they want and they like. So the environment that you're surrounded by, the friends that you're hanging out with, is based on your current vibration. Does that make sense? So all the environment that you're surrounded by is your extended identity. That's why moving feels stressful, because your identity gets shaken. Does that make sense? So I just want you to sort of sit with that idea, because we're coming together to engage in the soul's purpose. And if you are one of those people who have not been living inspired and led by your heart, led by your soul's purpose every single day, if not every single moment, once this summit's in and you're taking notes and you're listening and understanding and you're liking most of the content, I'm just going to say most of the content, and then you will go back to exactly the habitual default mode. I guarantee. So I'm asking to do something, to make a decision, to do something different, right? That includes maybe coming into the group that I facilitate, or maybe we can discuss so I can guide you to the right direction. But what I want to avoid is for you to not to do anything and spend exactly the same way, because that's not going to help you at all. That information, intellectual knowledge that you received this weekend means nothing if the change doesn't occur. So that's the habit portion. Now, I want to talk about the fear portion. Now, the fear portion is, there is a subtle version of the fear portion, because, and this goes together with the self image and the concept of self and self-worth. Ready? the more we, as much as, that's what I said, as much as we want change in our intellect, at the subconscious level, there is a part of us that is seeking the same. Because changing and becoming somebody else, often for a lot of people, is fearful. That unfamiliar feeling is fearful. So one of the things that I often say is that many people think and say that, people are afraid of failing. What I found is that many people are afraid of succeeding than failing. So they say that they want to succeed, they say that they want to change. At the conscious level, your subconscious mind has the thermostat of wanting to stay the same, So either until you make a decision to truly commit to this path to change, or your environment becomes so disempowering and threatening where you must change, otherwise you cannot survive. Either or is gonna lead you to finally change. That's the pattern that humans have, that people are seeking a change, people are seeking more, and the subconscious is constantly saying, oh, I don't know if this is for me. Let's see what happens. Let's meditate a little bit for a day, and that becomes a month, 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years, because the energy that they're operating is there, the default mode. So the combination of fear and the faith paralyze and make people stuck. And notice that those two, fear and habits, are the product of our biology as an animal, governed by the autonomic nervous system, which makes us automatic. You don't need to think about driving to the same place that you have been going, because the autonomic nervous system kicks in. You don't need to tell yourself that there's a danger next to you when there's a fire, because we're designed to let that autonomic nervous system kick in so we can instinctually sense that. So habit and fear are actually gifts when we truly understand what they are. But when we do not study what they are, they will control us forever. And forever means for the entire life. Earl Nightingale is a mentor of Bob Proctor, and I have a quote that I love that he said, but I'm going to paraphrase a little bit to make it sound like my flavor and style. He said, the most people tiptoe through life hoping to safely make it to the end of their physical life. Most people tiptoe through life hoping to safely make it to the end of physical life. So the reason that I am sharing all these is because I want to let people know that there's a gap between our knowing intellect, absorbing all this information, and the doing and the embodiment. So one thing that I want to be clear is that my hope is to give hope and excitement and inspiration and desire, and more than anything else, for you to be able to see that there's a path to fully believe in your potential. For you to be able to begin seeing that there is a path to freedom. There's a path to full empowerment by being immersed in this information. That's number one. But the second layer of this conversation is that I just want to be upfront that intellectually understanding this by going after the books, YouTubes, and then going to this monthly workshop will not change you at all. Will not change you at all. Well, I don't want to say at all. There are people who are changing, but it will not be enough if you want to really truly express your soul's purpose, right? So the invitation that I have is to decide that this work, it doesn't need to be this particular work, but to go within and working on inside is your priority. And when I say that it's your priority, it means that we are willing to be disciplined with our thinking. We're willing to change the way that we are operating on a day-to-day to self-reflect and to make the inside work a priority, because we know that the outside will reflect the inside. Now that I say this, thing to everybody, I feel like I don't even understand why people don't make this priority. If they make this priority inside, they can get everything outside what they want. Isn't that strange? That people want the outcome, and then people, I think, understand now better that the inside is the cause of the outside. And if they focus on committing to work on their inside and make a priority instead of making things that we have been doing a priority as a priority, everything you will manifest the desire. So it is interesting, but that's part of the paradigm and programming, right? So a couple of other things. We are here for a certain period of time. And one thing that also Bob Proctor said is that we don't own anything. We think that we do, but we don't own anything. We don't even own our bodies. Does that make sense? We are souls. We don't own our mind. We are just renting for the time of this physical plane life. And I just want to ask everybody, and when I ask everybody, I am confirming to myself, what would be your priority? Like, what speaks to your soul? What is the thing that gives you an expansion? And what is the thing that gives you a meaning that you want to focus on? And are we focusing on that to cultivate that and nurture that to truly live the life that we're here to live, designed to live, and you are supposed to live? Because you have each one of us has a unique message that we are supposed to deliver to the world. And then that message can only be delivered by working on ourselves and then find out. And all of these empowerment and negativities and challenges that we have gone through, that might have been making us stuck, but that is a gift to work through so you can become somebody who have gone through that lesson, and that becomes your unique message. So nothing that has happened in the past is bad at all. It is something that we were supposed to go through, and it doesn't really matter what happened in the past. It matters that we're here and to choose and decide, okay, what do we want to do? Okay, Tessia is coming. Tessia is joining at the perfect time. So I have a lot of invitation to everybody, but here's the thing. It doesn't really matter what environment we're in. It doesn't really matter what you have, what you don't have. It doesn't really matter what your age is, where you're living. It doesn't really matter at all for the soul, right? Soul doesn't age. For the soul, and then your soul has always been waiting for you, the self, to recognize coming closer to the soul. So the reason that you came on this earth can be expressed freely. For the soul that is you, doesn't matter what situation you're in, what age you are, what's going on in your life. That is all you're thinking. And one thing that I want to say is that, because I hear this often, we do want to feel enjoyable and feeling exciting and having fun in our life. But I want to invite anybody and everybody to eliminate the word "I'm fine," because your soul probably is not seeking that. Whenever you say "my life is fine as it is," it's your ego talking. Your ego talking that my life is fine. The soul, the urge of the soul, the nature of the soul is seeking fuller and constant expression. Why do we say fuller when full sounds like it's the end? Because the infinite doesn't have any end. That's why we say infinite. So the soul is seeking a constant, meaning every single moment, a fuller and expansive expression. So if we acknowledge the urge of the soul, the reason and the mission that we're called on this earth plane, there's no language such as "I am fine." "I am fine" is moving the self away from the soul, because the soul is never fine. Soul is seeking more and fuller constant expression. And the more the soul, we acknowledge the fuller expression of the soul, the limitlessness of who we are, guess what? God, the creator, the source, is infinite intelligence. So we harmonize with that energy of the infinite. Does that make sense? Does that make sense how this all comes together? So we want to begin in watching the language of when we say "I am fine," I like the way it is. That is our ego talking. That is not what the soul is seeking. So I like the idea of Olympic athletes. I love the idea of compassion, loving, all that, but I love the idea of Olympic athletes. And if the term athletes resonate with me very much. And this is up to us, right? I'm not a believer of hustling and grinding. I think there is a different way to be in harmony and flow with the universe, to begin expanding our awareness and in creating fulfillment within and bring success without. Success in Japanese language means polish to become. So that's something that can be done without hustling and grinding. I'm saying that because sometimes when we say athletes, there is an energy of sports, right? But in the energy of sports, we sort of have this like a masculine energy of pushing, right? I don't believe in motivation, so I'm not a motivational speaker. I have never identified myself as that, because I think motivation is you need to push yourself, right? So I never use the term even push myself, but inspiration, to be in the energy of the soul, it pulls me forward. It's much lighter, it's fun, it's effortless, and it's ease and flow, but you can still accomplish the same thing. So depending on how you interpret things, right? Now, when you go to more of the Japanese type of Eastern culture, a lot of the martial arts, they are martial artists, they're athletes, but there is a sensitivity and the energetic component with the intention. So I like to bring more of that as an athlete. So I'm just want to explain that concept of athlete, right? So the reason that I want to say that is because athletes always have something that they're working on, and the external goal could be, Olympic record or breaking the world record, whatever that is. But they're doing that for them to work on their inside and the performance is going to be the outside effect. But that process of working on within, what they're doing is they're moving the self closer to the soul. Now imagine the top Olympic athletes, they're always living in their wish fulfill, in their fourth dimension, and they're imagining the outcome that they want to produce, and then they practice it, right? So I think that all of us in this world can be an athlete of our own life, whatever that expression is. And I believe that each and every one of us is an artist, and we're crafting the art and the gift within. And in order to do that, like for instance, any sport, it doesn't really matter what the sport is. Every athlete, Olympic athletes, needs to train their thinking, needs to train their imagination, needs to train their feeling, needs to train their belief in themselves, right? So when we borrow that concept and we apply that to our life, you are the athlete of your own life, and you have a vehicle, whatever that is. The vehicle could be being a mother. The vehicle could be having a product. A vehicle could be offering a service. A vehicle could be, I don't know, being a great customer, whatever that is that you want to become. It doesn't really matter what the vehicle is, but just like any athletes that play any sports, they're always training and working on their inside, which is their thinking, their imagination, their reaction to the world, the feeling, and more than anything else, what they believe about themselves. Does that make sense? So I wanted to throw all this information to encourage you, meaning to be in the energy of courage, to be the athletes of your own life. And in order to do that, as I said at the beginning, you have some, we all have some habitual pattern and the thermostat based on the fear that wants to keep us in the same place. And in order to really begin shifting the life to the fuller version of us, the more expression of the soul, we want to move away from the logical mind and begin being in the environment and the energy and the structure of empowerment, the energy that pull the essence of inside of you more to the surface, the environment that it constantly reminds you to be in the empower state. So every single moment you're in the place, space, group, environment that reminds you to move the self closer to the soul, not just as an understanding, but the embodiment of it. Does that make sense? I'm going to pause a little bit and then see if anybody has answer questions, actually. Ask me anything. You can unmute yourself, actually. Eric saying, need to make some change. Wait, need to make some change in your life and not going back. Yes. Contemplate and learn. I have to go. Yes, Ken. Thank you. Oh, and anybody else? No question? Did I explain well a lot of stuff? Hi, Jacqueline. You need to unmute yourself. You're muted.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Jacqueline. So Yuki, and this is a good thing. I feel like I'm an open channel for the universe. I felt that all my life. In other words, I feel like I get ideas from the universe all the time, constantly, do this, do that, do this, do that. So my question is, speaking on the soul level, can people have more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 ideas, and can we fulfill them? Do you follow me?
I think you want to be a little bit more specific what it means.
Specific. Yeah. Okay. So Okay, so what I mean is that we all come to this earth plane for a purpose, and I've always believed this my entire life. Um, so I guess what I'm saying is, how do we prioritize the most important gift that we need to bring into this world? So without getting lost in all of our ideas. Does that make sense?
I don't think you did you became any specific at all.
Oh, so I'm really confusing you.
I think you
Good.
restated
Welcome to
exactly
my
the same thing
world.
that you stated. I think
Okay.
it's still
Well,
general, but I think if I assumes a little bit, are you asking that you have, let's say you said 10, but let's say you have two things in mind, which one to focus on first?
yeah.
Which
Okay.
one do you know, which one do you like to focus on?
Yes, my children's books for sure. But
Okay.
I'm also an artist, so maybe that's why I'm always getting ideas for new projects. Da da da. I guess what I'm asking is, how do I prioritize the most? You're laughing. I see that smile. How do I
I'm
prioritize?
laughing because I have something that I want to tell you.
Okay, how do I prioritize the most important thing uh, for my soul's purpose before I leave the earth plane? How about that one? Does that make sense?
Wait, so Otesia is giving you a heart. So she's very good at reacting to people's comments, by the way. So if I make it specific what you ask, are you asking if writing a children's book is your priority? That
Yes.
it sounds like you already know that it's priority, but it
Yeah.
sounds like it's knowing you and based on the past experience that we have had, I don't think you are asking me how to prioritize things. You already know what the priority is. You're asking me how to just get it done.
True. True. But it's almost done. Okay, we can move on.
So I guess the question that, and then notice that if that is true, if actually the deeper inquiry is that how do I need to get it done, but you wanted to package as how do I prioritize when you have 10 things, right? Because that's how you started. Are you trying to get distracted because there's a fear in publishing the children's book? Yeah.
Maybe so. Maybe that's
Right.
it. Maybe that's
Are
what
you
I'm.
trying to say that, oh, I have 10 things that I need to focus on and don't know what to prioritize, even though deep inside you know that the priority is a children's book, but you're packaging that way, so I don't feel like I am I don't need to deal with this idea of I don't know why I cannot publish the book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think that's holding you back to publish the book? That is the question that we need to ask.
Okay. I'll have to do some inner research. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll look at that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yuki. Thanks. Thank you.
Anybody? I don't know who this iPhone person is. Karen.
I kind of just have a comment.
Yeah.
And this is on something from Empower 15, maybe 2 days ago. I really, really liked that because we've been going over the subjective mind thing over and over and over again. Really liked that you went into more depth about taking your thoughts, which turn into feelings, but you expanded on that idea of mood. And he talks about mood, and then mood turns into temper, which turns into personality, which is personal identity or reality, the real reality, your entire wholeness reality. And I don't know if you want to expand on that because other people maybe didn't hear it, but I just thought sometimes I get caught up in the fact that it's just always about thought. And of course, thought moves to all these other things. But the fact that Neville talks about mood, and that you kind of connected the dots with mood was really great, because that's what brought me to that state of feeling calmer and more settled. Was I was like, oh, what if I'm not just spending the whole day trying to control my thoughts, which gets tedious? And what if I'm just allowing myself to maybe meditate or walk or whatever, and that creates a mood? And what if I'm just allowing that mood to continue all day instead of the thought thing?
You might not like my answer though.
That's fine.
So that chain of thought comes from Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
So Joe Dispenza talks about, people are living in the same reactional emotions, and when you spend a certain period of time, your emotion, we call it mood. When that same emotion lasts, we call mood, and that turns into a certain temper. And the temper, when you're in, I don't know if the temper and the mood was the other way, but something along the line. And then when you are in the same mood, similar temper all the time, that becomes essentially your personality.
Okay.
And then the way that you move through your life through a certain personality becomes your personal reality, because who you are is what you see in the outside world. So I think the question that you're asking is observing the mind and the thinking sometimes requires a concentrated, focused attention, and it is a work, right? But if the emotion and the feelings is taken care of, which we can take care of through listening to the music, going out in the nature, isn't that something that we could do? The answer is yes. But the answer also, if we really want to change the personality and the personal reality by transforming the mood and the feeling and the temper and the emotion, we must become a master of our fate. Meaning to be able to choose what thoughts we think. This is the reason, because this is the whole point of, actually, I'm glad that you're bringing this up, because one of the key themes in my past a few workshops, and what I focused on the first section of yesterday, was you don't need to change who you are, but you only need to change how you see you in your mind. And I think, like a sound healing, different, like a shadow work, like an inner child work, there are a lot of modalities, great modalities out there. Yeah. But I think most modalities, including, we can call walking out in nature and listening to music as a modality. When we hear the sound, a certain frequency, when we experience the feeling and the sensation of nature, which is really aligned with harmony with the soul, because nature is soul, the same energy, right? Only knows abundance, only knows love, only knows happiness. Tree is not worried about tomorrow. Right? Tree doesn't have any anxiety, and then the thinking around what this dog is thinking of the tree, right? So tree has this pure love. That's why we feel that energy and the mood shift.
Yeah.
So, and those are easy. Those are
okay.
easy.
That makes sense, because I'm not saying I shouldn't have to control my thoughts or,
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I guess what you just recognized is what I'm saying is that I find it easier to do these other things, or make art or whatever makes me get in the zone really easily, that elevates the mood really quickly.
Right.
And that keeps me in that state in a better way. I'm not saying I don't need to, I'm still working on the thought thing. I'm not going to abandon that. It's just that it was nice for you to explain the mood to temper to personal reality thing. That was a really aha moment for me, in terms of having read all this stuff a lot of times and having talked about it a lot of times, that added a whole new sort of layer for me.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
thought that was really great.
Yeah. But let me explain a little bit, because I think this topic is really important. And I'm going to say this in a gentle way to the world, that when we have sort of like a past trauma or habitual pattern, we start looking at that as there's something in there that I need to change. And I hear very often in the coaching space, the world mental block, the programming that I need to, that's holding me back, right? So then people start searching tools outside of their mind to use to release that energy. But I don't think if we use the outside thing, which we can use that to help us to be able to respond, to create space in the mind, but if we neglect the work of attention and choosing your thoughts, responding, it's always gonna be using outside to shift inside, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a good idea to hope for that outside tool helping inside. It's gonna change how I choose to think. When we have the ability, when we have free will, we always have free will to choose thoughts, whichever we want. It means that this outside tool, help me choose my thoughts, right? So that just doesn't make sense to me. So that's also where I want to emphasize, where people are trying to change themselves, how they feel inside, without working on how they see themselves. Then, I'm not saying that that is ineffective. And I also think that it needs to be a combination of all.
Yeah.
But I think we need to own the power to choose our thoughts, to change our inside, because it's our body, it's our emotions and all that, right? So that master needs, I guess, if I combine what I have been saying, is that if we continue to use external music, nature, all that as a way to heal ourselves or to change our inside, we always going to be on the passenger, not navigator.
I guess I see it as a way for me to change my thoughts.
Yeah.
So that gives it, I mean, I'm not using it to get away from
right
changing my thoughts. I'm using it as a way to stay in the process of helping my thoughts be contiguous with my soul versus my, negative stuff.
Yeah, definitely we can use in a way to help us, but I do see a danger in relying on it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Eric,
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. One thing I just get it from what you just said a short while ago is that, like we have all this like knowledge suddenly, like how are we going to do with it? And I think the most important thing that I got take away, really blew me away this time, is that you need to make a break to a certain extent with your habits in the past. Because, all the things that you did, you have this period, but you have to make a change in your life, as you say, like the shampoo and everything, and the people you're with. And if you're always on the upper and the people around you try to pull you down, then you're going to be in the same place. So you really need to sort of like separate yourself from an environment or a situation that, that really is not going to be in your new life or your new vision of life. I think that's very important.
Yes, you got the message. If you want to change, you need to change your shampoo. That's my that's my message. But did you say that Julia iPhone is you? No?
No, then somebody else spoke up and said, Sheila, it's Sheila.
Oh,
I thought maybe it was me. And then somebody typed in the chat that it's Sheila.
I think she typed privately to you because I don't see that.
Oh, yeah, she must have done that privately to me. But
Okay.
yeah, and I so appreciate what Eric and Karen just shared. And I think it's because we've just been doing this summit for the last couple of days, but I had a situation come up yesterday where a loved one called and was like, I'm not feeling good. It could be COVID, you know, they're going to the fear place. And I had plans, you know, and I go back to, for a second, the old habit, you know, tap dancer, oh, make her homemade soup, cancel your plans, go take it to her, calm the situation down. And I really, you know, I still responded, but I didn't switch my plans and start making homemade soup. And I did sit and have some visualization and prayer time around that. And then our next correspondence was so much more calm between even that other individual. And I didn't jump into my old habit of fixing, which takes me out of my empower. But it's not that I don't love. I don't know where all of my old programming came that in order to express love, you must do all these things for all these people. But now having the tools to become aware that that's my pattern, my dance that I was going back to, it was really, it was just a great feeling. And I was still able to go off and have my plans last night and take my managers out to dinner. And this person that I love settled and got out of her fear pattern. And I really feel like it was because I, like Karen said, kind of constantly sat myself down, turned on my fifth dimension visualization, and then also, you know, saw that person healthy, well, calming down, able to handle this situation. So I'm so thrilled to have had this week and be able to meet that situation like that.
Yeah, you are given the actual opportunity to apply the wholeness in action. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. I do have Lisa commented for question, but Eileen, did you have any questions? Because you said that something was happening from the session yesterday, and then you were eager to join today. So I assume that you have some questions about it.
No, no. Yesterday was very impactful for me, and I have made some very major changes since I started working with you. This last session was unbelievable. I just garnered so much from it. I
Which
have
part of it?
changed. Well, I have changed all of it. I mean, I can't break it down.
Okay.
Obviously, going inside of myself was just mind-blowing for me. And part of the reason it was such a mind blower and closing my eyes is because I was that little kid that was the daydreamer and told to get the heck back into reality and stop dreaming so much, to stay with it in class and be a good girl, which has been the modus operandi of my entire life, being a good girl. But these past few months, I'm learning to love myself and respect myself. I've changed my inner dialogue. That doesn't mean I don't slip once in a blue moon, but mostly my inner dialogue is far more positive. And I never realized, I always thought of myself as a positive person because I was there to help everybody and do everything. But what I found out is I wasn't very positive with me. I was name calling. I labeled myself as some very bad things, and I didn't recognize all that I have done for me and accomplished. And that's coming to pass right now. I'm just feeling so much better. And yes, I sometimes feel fine which I have monikers for, the F-I-N-E. Every time I say that word, I call it, well, I can't repeat it online, but I have names for F-I-N and E. So I don't do that anymore. I'm not fine. I'm working on me and working very strongly to change. And I've reached a point in life where I know very specifically what I want to gain, and that I have to go inside much more to have the quote unquote happiness that I'm so seeking, especially at this point in my life. I want to continue working because I love it. I want my clients, I want so many per month, which you and I have talked about. I don't need a lot. I don't need to be working 5 days or 7 days a week. I'll take it if it comes to me, but I'd rather just work 2 days a week, every week, steadily, and appreciate the fact that I'm able to help people so I can give back, which is become something more important to me than the job of caretaking. So I'm no longer a hypnotherapist who's a caretaker. Oh, how did I lose you? Oh, there it is. I lost you for a minute.
I think
I'm
it's important for everybody, not only you, Elaine, but if you find yourself saying, I'm fine, to come up with something different.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't use that term anymore. I laugh because fine to me means, I'll put it in a nice way, forked up, insane, neurotic, and emotional beyond belief.
Okay.
So I use those terminologies. So I don't use the word fine anymore. I laugh when someone else says, oh, congratulations, you're now blank, 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 blank. So I don't use that anymore. I'm more into working on creating better means of handling outside challenges with inside thoughts. So that's where I'm at. And that's what I took away from yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow, it was mind-blowing. And I
Good.
like the fact that I can go inside more, not just to meditate, but to really deep inside and see the real me,
Yeah.
which I'm beginning to like.
Nice. We need some blowing the mind thing to be able to shake it up a little bit. I want to talk about I'm fine a little bit more. Does it make sense that the idea that when we say I'm fine, my life is fine, is coming from the ego? Does that make sense? Because soul doesn't recognize that. It's not the nature of it. So, and then if I add another layer, because I mentioned yesterday, okay, Nikki, say makes sense. Yesterday, the flip of choosing you because you're focusing on others versus many people choose others and they're focusing on themselves. So when we say I'm fine, like I cannot decide what other people's want or what desire is, right? So you can only decide what that is and what kind of life you want to be living, but I can definitely help everybody to expand and see themselves from a different angle so they can decide and choose something different. So the reason I'm saying that is because whenever we say my life is fine and I'm fine, it means that they have a certain view about themselves. And if they're enjoying it, yes, but I think we're a relational creature. So we're supposed to be touching people. We're supposed to be relating with people. We're supposed to be helping and serving people. I'm not saying that we need to be working, but something that is the gift and the expression that is inside of you, you cannot, like, if we're expressing to the outside, there gotta be something or somebody outside. Like, it's gonna be very boring to be living in an island by yourself and then expressing it. There's no any interaction. Well, this is also what I love about Gary Zukav, that he used the term interaction. We're here to interact, the human interaction, right? So when we say I'm fine, I always see that there's a certain sense of worthiness that is being created in a certain box. And then my life is fine because this is how I believe myself and how I see myself, right? And that is a focusing on ourselves, that I see myself as this version. But if you focus on others, because people out in the world, there are a lot of people who need encouragement. There are a lot of people who need help. There's a lot of people who needs to be inspired, right? There's so many people in the world who needs inspiration because they're not living in their spirit. They're living in this material world driven, sensory driven life that is being disconnected from the spirit. So if we know that, let's say 7 billion people in the world are seeking inspiration, we want to step up to be that person to inspire however we want to be inspiring. It could be your artwork, it could be your children's book, Jacqueline, it could be your hypnosis, Aline, whatever that is. It could be your movie that you're creating, Eric. I'm saying everyone is what I know, right? So whatever the art and the delivery is, it is a vehicle to inspire others, to get them back home. And the home is the inspiration to help them believe and help them inspire to go back to their spirit. So does that make sense? So whenever we say fine, we're focusing on ourselves and we're not focusing on how we can inspire others. So the whole beautiful cycle of this is that the soul got thrown into this world, but we are united already, whole already in the spiritual realm. And then when we get inspired and begin crafting the art, and when we start living every single day for the sake of inspiring others, we're bringing the wholeness into the physical. Because then when people are touched by others' arts, they feel whole. So we're going back home with the cycle of serving into oneness. Does anybody have any questions about that? While people are thinking about the question, I'm going to answer. Lisa posted a question. So she said, how to integrate this in the 3D more, but do you have any helpful visual thoughts? Song or step dancing is a good way to move energy that you use as a tool to bring yourself closer to soul. When you feel program thinking creeping up, do you have recommended shortcuts to stop it from happening besides something like meditation? So this is sort of related to what we talked about, Karen. All of the above, right? So nature, walking, music, whatever that is, visualization. But I think to begin developing a habit and the lifestyle of observing the thought. And then here's the thing though, this might be also a response to you, Karen. I enjoy working on the inside. I have fun catching my thoughts. So it is also a perspective that, is this the hard work or is this a empowering work, right? The perspective. So to answer your question, Lisa, I personally like journaling. I personally like to do some exercise, listening to music, and all those tools help to shift the energy temporarily. And then we are welcome to use those to be able to go into the empowering state. But I think a permanent lifestyle change happens when, just like Eileen is discovering, to really understand that the you lives inside of you when you close your eyes and begin becoming an expert in creating the real you in your mind by choice. And when you think of like Eckhart Tolle or Dalai Lama or all those people, we can easily assume and imagine that they're doing those work, right? They're not just relying on the music. I don't know if Eckhart Tolle likes music or exercise, but we don't see them using that as a tool to get back on track. Does that make sense? Like Buddha or Jesus, they frustrated and they do the push-ups. I don't think that's what they do. Right? I don't know if Buddha likes push-ups. But they know how to go inside and shift it. So I think that's the path to the mastery of the self. We can use the outside tool, but not to rely on it. I'm gonna drop the goal. Oh, sorry, I don't want to drop the wrong link.
I have a
One last time.
question.
Go ahead and ask a question.
It's me, Aline.
Eileen.
You talk about journaling, and I know Jackie is a big one for journaling. For me, it's brought up so many ugly things that I always run from it. However, I have been not 100% consistent, but I have been continuing doing my gratitude list, all 10 of them. And I finished another one last night. Does that serve some of the same purpose of journaling, or is it so very different, or going in a different direction by avoiding journaling and going to doing the gratitude list? I think I got confused there.
Are you asking that question because you don't want to journal and you want to replace the gratitude list with the journal?
That's what I've been doing. I don't know that it's as effective, but that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So I think it really depends. I don't have a specific answer. Everybody has things that resonate with them. I'm a writer, so I like to write on paper and then feel. Gratitude is great. I don't do gratitude. I engage in gratitude different ways, right? So it really depends. And then for me, when people ask me what is the routine, right? I like to call it practice that I ritualize. It changes. And then I'm always consolidating, so it shifts. And depending on where I'm at and what I want to focus on, it changes. But I have been heavily ritualizing my life. So I have in the morning, I have in the afternoon, I have in the evening. And I think though, if, Eileen, this group and everybody's watching the replay, we really needs to be convinced that the fourth dimension is the real world. And are we living that moment to moment? Are we getting drifted into the three-dimensional world? And I'm not saying to ignore the 3D world, but to acknowledge that the creation of the 3D world resides in your mind. And are you becoming a creator constantly? So whatever the practice, Eileen, it could be gratitude, it could be journaling, it could be visualization, it could be affirming, saying out loud, whatever the practice that helps you to stay in the fourth dimension is what we want to execute. So I dropped the goal setting session link here. I opened 20 slots this week and it's already taken 13. So I just want to give you a sense of urgency. And many people who are here live are already working with me, but people who are listening to or watching replay, I want to go back to the first thing that I mentioned. I want you to do something. So schedule a goal setting and then to discuss with me, and we'll figure out what will be the next step for you, because I don't want you to listen to this and then go to holiday and then go to next year. And then 6 months later, okay, same place, a year later, same place. There needs to be something that needs to be changed if you want to change it. And never say I'm fine, because your soul is not. Your soul is not. Okay, Karen left. Any last minute question, everybody? I think I went over a little bit.
Thank you for everything.
And I
Thank
just
you. Yeah,
comment, Eileen, just really quick. I really find the practice of moving my body after journaling to be very helpful. There's something about getting out of the mind, Eileen, and just getting back into the body. So even when Yuki would put on that music during our pause, it helps me integrate, to just kind of move and have some inspiring music. Positive things are also just to help dissipate out of the mind. So not that that's necessarily going to be a practice for everybody, but it just came up for me when you were saying that. And so I thought I'd share it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay, cool. That is it, everybody. I will send the replay for this, and stay tuned with different things via email, and have an awesome weekend. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.